In this episode of Speak Out and Play, I will talk about what is a cult game and the 3 games I consider to be cult games. I will also discuss what is in Warfighter Corner in terms of news, purchases, and new videos. Mention what new games I've purchased and what games I'm creating videos on in the works, and reveal the videos to be released in December 2025, all on Speak Out and Play. Hello and welcome to the November 2025 edition of Speak Out and Play. Thank you for being here. Thanksgiving is upon us, and if you are listening to this here podcast when it is first released, and the weather has taken a decidedly cooler turn, with all the leaves turning into beautiful colors in some places, but not others. Oh well, it's not like I was going to take pictures or something, which I was planning on doing. Anyway, it has become that time of year where I say goodbye to the outdoors and hello to hugging my space heaters. However, I will also use this time to get so far ahead on my video production that it becomes ridiculous. One note before we get going is that I moved up the audio-only podcast for Speak Out and Play from the Monday before the last Wednesday of the month to the Friday before the last Wednesday of the month. Plus, I added Apple Podcast, Podcast Index, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Deezer, and Player FM, in addition to Spotify and Buzzsprout. I hope to add more in the future, and I will let you know when that happens. I have some links in the video description if you are watching this on my YouTube channel. I moved up the podcast for the audio version as an experiment to see if more people wanted to listen over the weekend as opposed to just the Monday before. Let me know in the comments if you like the move to the previous Friday before the last Wednesday. And of course, any suggestions on topics are most welcome. And now let's get on to our main topic for this month's podcast. I always try to choose an interesting subject for the podcast. I may not always succeed, but I try. One that I hope will spark a little discussion or perhaps be entertaining. Last month was the radio play, a dramatic interpretation of my annual Attack of the Mutants playthrough, and it went over like a lead balloon, as it usually does. But anyway, this month I will talk about what I consider to be cult games. We are all familiar with cult movies, but is there such a thing as a cult game? I believe so. And because the same rules of popularity apply to games as well as movies, you can have cult games as well. But first, I must define what a cult game is. I think everyone has their own definitions of what might qualify as a cult game, so it's important that I offer a definition from my viewpoint to avoid any confusion, assuming that there's any confusion out there in the first place. It is tempting to say the old joke about what a cult movie is, the joke being that a cult movie is a film that 13 people love and they pray nobody else watches it. My definition of a cult game or a cult war game is as follows. A game that does not have mainstream appeal, but it does have a robust following. Now, if you think in terms of movies, the Rocky Horror Picture Show is arguably the ultimate cult movie. It does not have a mainstream audience appeal, but it has raked in more than $500 million in midnight movie ticket sales for 40 years at least. In terms of games, at least those made by wargame companies, identifying a cult game is somewhat difficult, since you might argue that wargaming itself is a rather cult niche. But there are games that have a robust following, even if they do not have mainstream appeal within the wargaming community or the general board game community. The reasons why they may not have mainstream appeal are myriad. They could have complex or difficult rules. The subject matter may not appeal to a wide audience. Or in the case of my first 2 choices, it is simply difficult to play the game with a recommended number of players. With plenty of candidates, I decided to go with 3 that were originally published by Avalon Hill. First, because the titles will be familiar, and B, because I was hard-pressed in terms of other game companies of the time producing what would turn out to be cult games. Game companies like SPI and Uquinto come to mind, but what games from those respective companies would be considered cult? I'm not quite sure. Perhaps you can help me with that. Anyway, let's get on with the list. The first on the list is Dune, Originally by Avalon Hill and now released by Gale Force 9, Dune may be the first game from a wargame company to have achieved cult status, in my opinion. We can argue about whether it's a wargame or not. It does include military conflict, and the game is won by controlling 3 or 4 strongholds, depending on whether you do it alone or in alliance with someone else, which is certainly a wargame-type victory condition. But Dune has a lot of diplomacy involved, and its multiplayer status waters down what might be viewed as a fully fledged wargame. But however, to me, Dune is a wargame, albeit one that has a unique game structure, asymmetrical factions, and lots of innovative features which are still fresh today. It also has a quite prominent following, as any random search on YouTube or Google demonstrates. Plus, Dune is also on Discord, where players can communicate privately with their allies more conveniently than it's played face-to-face. In fact, it's actually doing pretty well on Discord. So, that's my first cult game. So let's switch gears to what I consider to be the second cult game, because we stay with Avalon Hill, but this game is long out of print, the legendary Advanced Civilization. Released originally as Civilization in 1981, I believe, the game received a substantial upgrade about a decade later when Advanced Civilization was released. You can find the base game on eBay, often for less than $50, but Advanced Civilization sells regularly for at least $150 or more. Since Advanced Civilization is long out of print, there have been a myriad of games produced which mimic it to some degree, but its cult status is certainly there, as it is common, at least for me, to see photos from player sessions that start in the morning and end in the early evening as they play this remarkable game. Now, unlike Dune, I do not consider Advanced Civilization to be a war game. It is true that you can go to war with your neighbors, but that's not the primary method of winning the game, so it's not a war game. At least in my view. Maybe you have a different view. You've probably picked up a pattern here, as Dune and Advanced Civilizations are both multiplayer games. In fact, a large part of their cult status is arguably due to the need that both games require 6 and 7 people, respectively, to be played properly. You can play both with less, but that is not the most desirable way to play either game, which may be the primary component as to why Dune and Advanced Civilization are considered to be cult games, in my opinion. Because if you really want to play it with a full complement, that's not easy for many people to achieve. But that requirement for so many people does not apply to my final example of a cult game, again from Avalon Hill, Upfront. Now, I've covered Upfront for a long time, and its long and sordid history in previous podcasts, as well as innumerable videos that I've made. But if I had to think of a 2-player war game that deserves cult status, this would be the one. And there are people who play it today. At least, mostly from my understanding, they play Upfront in solitaire mode. Now, many wargamers play war games by themselves. They play it solitaire. And that seems to be standard today with solitaire games, and the options being most prominent. Upfront is, to me, a unique type of cult game because relatively few people play it today for its primarily designed purpose, which is a 2-player tournament-style war game where you create your own forces and go into battle with somebody who has done the same. What you see listed on each scenario as suggested forces are there to help you learn how Upfront works and get you familiar with the mechanics. But the real game is when you design your own forces using the DYO points to create your own forces for play. Add to that the 501 City Fightin' 4, which I've covered extensively, is arguably the ultimate expression of what Upfront is all about. And yet, due to many different reasons, which I will not go over with in this podcast, the game today is mostly played outside its primary design, in my honest opinion. As mentioned before, Dune is now available from Gale Force 9, and Upfront can be purchased from Wargame Vault. Now, I don't make money on any of that. I wish I did, but I don't make money on any of that. That's up to you if you decide you want to check out those games. With Advanced Civilization, you just have to search on eBay or other sites that offer out-of-print games, or you can choose from the several games that are based on or inspired by Advanced Civilization if you want a more modern take on its subject matter. Now, I'm sure that there are other games out there which could be called a cult game or cult war game. If you know of any, or you think you have some, then leave them below in the comment section. I'll be interested to see your choices. And now that we're done with that, let's turn this ship that is the Speak Out and Play podcast 90 degrees and focus on what's happening in Warfighter Corner. Warfighter Corner is where I focus on all things Warfighter by DVG. The current core set count is 10, but that's going to be reduced by 1 with the retirement of Warfighter Fantasy. But then again, it will increase by 1 when Warfighter War arrives. I will talk about any new news about Warfighter from DVG, what new Warfighter-related expansions or core sets that I have purchased, and what videos I am producing for the channel here in Warfighter Corner. Now, there's not a whole lot in the way of new news from DVG about Warfighter. There is the Battle Pack Wave number 4, which is a series of expansion packs, which is at the printers right now, and Warfighter War, which is closing in on being at the printers in the next few months. I also have heard rumors about Warfighter Ninja, which sounds like a really interesting core set, but it's still undergoing playtesting. No word on when that game might be released, so it could be some time before it hits Kickstarter, or not. And I say or not because I was not aware of Field Commander Patton until I was asked to do a video for it on Kickstarter. So there is that. And with that out of the way, let's move on to what I have purchased this month in terms of Warfighter stuff. I took advantage of the 30 sale that DVG offered to buy more Modern and Shadow War expansions. The sale lasted for about a week and started just as I completed the podcast for October. It offered 30% off of all products DVG had available. Well, I wasn't going to pass up on that, so I purchased 7 more expansions, which brings my total Modern and Shadow War up to a respectable level. Now, at the last minute, as I was making my videos for upcoming Warfighter 29s and rules expansions and stuff like that, I went through my expansions again, and I noticed that I think that I have 2 that are missing from World War II. And I was very put back about that. So I have taken steps right now to try to correct that. And so I'll let you know about that in the next podcast. Naturally, you'll be seeing unboxings of those expansions, which include the 2 from World War II and then Modern and Shadow War in future videos. Of course, by the time I get to them, Warfighter War, which is scheduled to come out next summer, will also have several expansions, which will get their day in the sun on my channel as well. Now, I did not produce any videos for Warfighter this month, but I will be in December. As you may know, Warfighter Week is the second Wednesday. It's actually now the second Monday and Wednesday. I'll get to that, of each month. And one video is an unboxing of a Warfighter expansion, which includes every core set that's available, including the recently retired Warfighter Fantasy. And the second is a mixed bag, which focuses on rule sections, my Warfighter 29 series, and the like. Currently, my Warfighter 29 series, I focus on World War II, and I'll be doing so for the foreseeable future, but that doesn't mean it'll be that way forever, if only because I'm running out of nations for World War II to do the series over. I'm also recovering some rule sections to update videos that I made years ago. I'm not doing that only because I'm lazy, but also because I shoot longer videos now, and so I can include more information and make a more complete explanation of the various rule sections. Now, some subjects, such as striking or hand-to-hand combat, I've already updated. I've already done those. And I'm not sure what sections that players have difficulty understanding. I mean, it kind of varies. I keep my nose to the grindstone on it, but I'm not going to catch everything. But apart from the original rules to Warfighter Fantasy, of course, I am aware of a new version of the rules for that particular set that was done by somebody outside of DVG, which, according to what I've heard, is more understandable. It's one reason why I avoided doing a lot of videos on Warfighter Fantasy, because I had trouble wrapping my head around it. So I don't want people to think I'm too stupid, so I just avoided that altogether rather than put out something that might be wrong. I'm not sure if I will do any rules videos apart from expansion unboxings on Warfighter Fantasy since it is being retired, but we will see. The game will still be available on secondary markets, and there are 3 new fantasy expansion packs that are coming out with the Battle Pack number 4, so who knows? Another note, I normally have, as I mentioned before, 2 Warfighter videos scheduled for the same day each month, which is the second Wednesday of each month. However, this month I moved the unboxing video up to Monday. I did this because I noticed that one video would get considerably more views than the other, so I wanted to give each video its own space. And I have done the same for December, and I will note if it makes any difference or not. Now, so far in November, it does look like the unboxing video, which I made for the first expansion to Warfighter Corner, did okay. Didn't do as well as the rules video that I made, but it did pretty good. So that might be something that I will continue from now on. So if I see more improvements in the views, I will schedule all Warfighter videos that way, plus any other multiple videos that would normally come out on the same day will be moved in the same manner as well. In other words, I'll space them out during the week rather than having them all come out at the same time. Because right now, on Christmas Eve, I have 3 non-Warfighter videos scheduled, which means 2 of them are going to be moved to their own days. So that's it for Warfighter Corner. Let's move on to what I call In the Works and see what's happening outside of the world of Warfighter. In the Works is where I talk about all things that I am producing, purchasing, creating, all that stuff that is not Warfighter and any non-Warfighter games that I have bought. It seems simple, doesn't it? Well, sometimes it's not as simple for me. Anyway, although it's that time of year where purchasing games is at the forefront of my mind, and perhaps yours too, I didn't get any new games this month, mostly because I purchased several games last month. I am a little concerned that I mostly purchased out of print or soon to be out of print games. However, I may still purchase a new game or 2 before the year is out. And with that, let's turn to what videos I am creating for the channel in terms of non-Warfighter games. So let's start with War of the Ring. That's a big game that I am producing this month, which will be scheduled for a later date. After October, I made at least 12 videos of all sorts of other games, so I've lost track, but I'm not sure. But I believe it was 12. And so I only made 4 videos this month. They're scheduled this month as I put this podcast out, and they're all on War of the Ring. Now, I've already made an overview video of War of the Ring, which is coming out next year, along with 2 videos that consist of 2 chapters of the rule book that were not covered in the overview. And after making the videos, I realized that there were 4 chapters left that were also not covered. So I spent most of this month writing, and I will be shooting, editing, and scheduling them to come out at a later time. These videos will complete the War of the Ring rule book, and they will not come out for some time, but when the last of them airs, I will release a compilation video which will cover all the chapters in order. And as you might guess, the current release schedule of the videos has the chapters out of order, but there's a good reason for that. And when I can think of that reason, I will tell you. It is because I moved up the final 2 chapters in the rule book to cover how to win the game and how to play the game with 3 or 4 people. This is what I normally do when I make an overview video and in rules videos. I tend to cover optional rules and how to win the game out of order as opposed to in order. When I explain how games are played, I normally say what the victory conditions are sooner than later. And then optional rules I make for videos that come out later. But when the compilation video is released, all the chapters will be in order. It is quite challenging, but I like the idea of choosing a single popular game and doing a full set of videos on the rule book. So I plan on doing that for 1 game each year, assuming it has a strong following. No doubt about War of the Ring, which has its own World Championship tournament. So yes, that is a popular game. Now I'm also producing a teaser video. Given that I'm producing my videos way in advance and probably too far in advance, I did create a little teaser video for the spring of 2026. It's just 90 seconds of music and with some shots of videos that I produced that will be released from January to June of 2026. Now, it may technically count as a video, but I don't really count it as a video, and it's going to come out during Christmas week. But it does give you an idea of what's going to be coming up next year. And in addition to the teaser video, there will be a compilation of all the rules videos that I have made for Upfront. Now, there are 2 more videos from Upfront which will be coming out next year. So obviously they won't be included in the compilation. And after that, I will see what is left, as I've covered the rule book from front to back, I believe. For Upfront fans, if there is something else about Upfront in terms of rules explanations that you would like to see covered, then please let me know in the comments section. And the same is true for any game that I have created videos for the channel. Just keep in mind that I don't do formal reviews, nor do I do playthroughs. I know, I'm picky that way. But I just don't have the time or the gaming group to properly do either reviews or playthroughs, and that includes solitaire games. Otherwise, the sky is the limit. I can say that I will be making more videos in January, after I get done with War of the Ring and Warfighter, that will cover different games. The tentative schedule right now is that the 3 out-of-print games, which I mentioned, 2 of which are somewhat popular, I would say, will be covered, along with a third that is going to be a compilation of 4 videos that I already made on that game. But I made it years ago. I'm not that happy with it now. And I can't say that the game is all that popular, but that's what I will be doing in January. So anyway, just to get that out of the way. And now that we are done with all that, whatever that was, isn't it amazing how time flies when you're having fun? Let's turn this thing toward coming attractions to find out what videos are being released in December 2025 on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel. For the first week of December 2025, Seek Out and Play presents an overview of Undaunted 2200 Callisto by Osprey Games. The video provides a basic introduction to the Undaunted system, including the game mechanics, turn sequence, setting up the game, and a play example, all from the rulebook. Undaunted 2200 Callisto is the 5th installment in the Undaunted series. For the second week of December 2025, Seek Out and Play presents Warfighter Week with 2 videos. The first is an unboxing of Warfighter Vietnam Expansion Number 3, Australian Soldiers. The video shows off the soldiers, gear, missions, objectives, locations, skills, and weapons of the expansion. The second video covers the campaign rules for Warfighter Vietnam by DVG. The video lays out all the campaign rules so you can begin quickly, starting with the Hearts of Darkness campaign. For the third week of December 2025, Seek Out and Play presents the campaign rules for Upfront, a game originally released by Avalon Hill and now available through Wargame Vault. The video shows how to set up a campaign, create the soldiers, and how the various mechanics of the campaign works for Upfront, plus the victory conditions and how you can personalize the soldiers for your campaign. For the fourth week of December 2025, Seek Out and Play presents 3 videos for the Christmas holidays. The first is the campaign rules for Gunslinger, an out-of-print game by Avalon Hill. The video covers how you can put together several showdowns to form a campaign for Gunslinger. In addition, a compilation video of all the rules I have made for the Upfront will be presented in a single video. This means that you can watch any of the rules videos I have made for the game in one presentation. And finally, a short teaser video of the games to be featured for the first 6 months of 2026. The video will give you some strong hints as to the games that will have their own videos on Seek Out and Play. Check out more videos when you subscribe to the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel. In addition, there is a monthly Speak Out and Play podcast, which you can find on Buzzsprout and Spotify. For just $2 per month, you can support the channel by becoming a Patreon member and see the videos and podcast 48 to 72 hours in advance. At least one new video is released every week on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel, so I will see you next Wednesday. And that's it for this edition of the Speak Out and Play podcast. Thank you for listening. Each audio edition of the Speak Out and Play podcast is released on the last Friday before the last Wednesday of each month on Buzzsprout, Apple, Spotify, and more. A video version is released on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel on the last Wednesday of each month. Speak Out and Play is a monthly podcast from the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel. Every episode, I talk about wargaming, historical board gaming, the Warfighter series by DVG, games that I have purchased and producing videos for, and the coming attractions of videos that will appear on the following month on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel. If you have any questions, ideas, or suggestions that you want to see featured on the Speak Out and Play podcast or the YouTube channel itself, please let me know in the comments section. At least one new video is released every week on the Seek Out and Play YouTube channel, so I will see you next Wednesday. And if you see Sally, bring her all the way home.